Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. A story which cuts to the chase of the culture wars in the United States, quite literally. Protests in Indonesia continue against changes to the law.
If you're a grown adult who needs to yell at a child for some reason, the Greta Helpline is here to tolerate you.
And Australian satirists come up with a healthy outlet for hate against Greta. And at the top of our newsfeed, Amari Allen. Now, she's 12 years old and has dreadlocks. What happened to her at a school in America recently was ugly and upsetting, but by talking about it, maybe it can be stopped from happening to another young girl. Here's Adama.
Eurocentric beauty standards have dominated for decades. Some black women find it challenging to have their hair the way God made it. Amari Allen is a 12-year-old who wears her hair in dreadlocks. She says 3 white children attacked her and cut parts of her hair during a break at school.
Boys came up to me and they ambushed me, sort of, caged me in. And so they put their hands over my mouth, they put my hands behind my back, and they started cutting my hair and saying that it was ugly.
Amari goes to the private Emmanuel Christian School in Virginia. Her family pays $12,000 a year in tuition. The school says it has a zero-tolerance policy for bullying and is investigating the allegations. But Amari says it's not the first time.
Don't touch my hair.
There's gradual acceptance of black men and women wearing their hair naturally, or in the hairstyles they want. In the US, California became the first state to ban discrimination against natural hairstyles. The law allows locks, braids, twists, cornrows, and other African-centered styles in schools and workplaces. New York soon followed suit. But it's only 2 states out of 50, and it's not just the US where this is a problem. Locks carry a historical, religious, and cultural legacy for many people of African descent. In Rastafarianism, a religion that began in Jamaica, dreadlocks are essential for adherents of the faith.
This morning, I woke up in a curfew.
Reggae artist Bob Marley and his band, The Wailers, were responsible for taking the culture and, by extension, the hairstyle global. In the past few days, Jamaica's Supreme Court has been hearing the case of a 5-year-old who was stopped from going to school because she has dreadlocks. World Afro Day took place this month. It's designed to educate children and adults about the natural hairstyle of billions of people. Primary students in Southeast England had a lesson designed to teach that afros are good hair too.
The Afro lesson is about critical thinking, cultural education and creative solutions. Children think about things differently and they can express themselves in a way that we've kind of lost as adults. And if we change things at that level, I just think the whole world will change.
For children like Amari, that change can't come soon enough.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Now, this was the first time a selfie was taken at the UN General Assembly. The Instagram literate leader is President Nayib Bukele of El Salvador, and as he rightly pointed out, more people will see and engage with the picture than with the speech he gave. Not that it's a great selfie though. Little advice next time, bro. Think angles. Angles. This video has been doing the rounds and racking up the numbers all week. It purports to be a woman trying to get her boyfriend's phone open using Face ID and results in this strange-looking piece of performance art. It's a definite fake, but why should that stand in the way of it going viral? And it's become so popular, it's encouraged people to doctor the original footage to get their own likes, like this one, which has a lightsaber. Some people without decent headphones find it very annoying if they're on a flight with a baby nearby crying. Well, Japan Airlines will now let passengers see where babies are sitting at the point of seat selection, a kind of baby seat map, you could say. Now, there have been days and days of protests in Indonesia against a major change to the law there. People in the world's most populous Muslim nation see the changes as an attack on their freedom, but that's not how the nation's rulers see it.
Indonesia is seeing its biggest protests in 2 decades, with tens of thousands of students turning out. The government wants to overhaul the country's criminal code. The changes would outlaw premarital sex, blasphemy, help for abortions, and insults of the president. The government also wants to restrict sales of contraception.
This protest is the result of our accumulated disappointment towards these kinds of policies.
Protesters are also fighting a new law that weakens Indonesia's anti-corruption body by removing some of its powers, like wiretapping suspects.
Many bills passed under this regime only benefit business interests, like cutting taxes on palm oil. The revision of the law on the anti-graft body doesn't support efforts to eradicate corruption.
At least 2 people have died during clashes with the police, while hundreds have been injured since protests began on Tuesday. Indonesian President Joko Widodo has called for the investigations into whether police were responsible.
Since the very beginning, I have instructed the National Police Chief and his staff not to act repressively. I have also instructed the National Chief to investigate his subordinates because the police chief has said he has never given any instructions to carry guns to secure demonstrations.
President Joko Widodo has long wanted to reform Indonesia's criminal code, which was set up by the Dutch when Indonesia was a colony. In the face of public pressure, Widodo says he's putting the morality bill on hold and is considering revoking the anti-graft law. But will it be enough to satisfy the anger on the streets?
And next up, we have an interesting story for you out of North Africa. Here's Ahmed to explain about another attempt to claim a bit of land between Sudan and Egypt.
So the world apparently has a new country, a controversial prime minister, an unknown king, an interesting flag, and all for the purpose of housing refugees and migrants. So we're going to go over some things that you need to know about this so-called nation to try and make sense of all of this. The so-called country of the Yellow Mountain lies between Egypt and Sudan. It exists in a box of land near disputed territory between Cairo and its neighbor. Bir Tawil is the official name of this region. It's 2,060 square kilometers, which is roughly the size of Kuwait. It's neither claimed by Egypt nor Sudan, leaving the region without an owner. But somebody else wants it.
وباسمي نحن رئيس مجلس وزراء مملكة الجبل.
The footage you just saw was recorded on September 5, 2019. The woman speaking is of Lebanese-American origin and goes by the name of Nadira Awad Nassif. She declared the establishment of the Yellow Mountain, stating that the country will be an Islamic constitutional monarchy with the goal of housing migrants and refugees across the Arab world. She said the decision came after the king met his ministers in the city of Odessa in Ukraine. Of course, it doesn't need much critical thinking to see some major gaps here. First off, she did not mention the name of this king or the ministers. Secondly, it is quite eccentric to say the least that the meeting is taking place in Odessa, Ukraine, of all places. Finally, the randomness of this announcement begs the question of whether what she is saying is even feasible or legal. Well, technically, according to the UN, it isn't illegal to declare a country. All you need is 4 things: a plot of land, some people, a government, and international recognition at a later stage. They've claimed the land, they say they have the government, and hope to bring more than 20 million people between 2020 and 2040. And now, they need to get that recognition. But all this is quite problematic. Why? Well, a few things. First off, this prime minister isn't the first to declare this plot of land a country. There was a very optimistic American fella by the name of Jeremiah Heaton who declared this place the Kingdom of North Sudan to make his daughter's dream of becoming a princess come true. His Facebook post went viral, but not the good viral, because he's from America coming to Africa declaring a country for his daughter, which is reminiscent of this little thing called colonialism. More than where Heaton is from though, the issue of unclaimed land, micronations, and now the birth of a state based on a desire to house refugees and legal loopholes is dangerous. Because what happens when legitimate nations want to do away with their refugees and start sending them to the so-called Yellow Mountain, turning the whole place into a giant refugee camp in the middle of the desert? Why is it a monarchy? How will it be run? And what happens if one day Egypt and Sudan want to claim that land? In short, as the Middle East goes through wars, turbulence, and political instability, there is a very real chance that countries will be split or carved up into smaller fragmented states. And so the example of the Kingdom of the Yellow Mountain can become much more than a weird piece of news that made it on your timeline.
And we will keep spinning around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Friday. Young people are on the streets again today all over the world. This is Wellington in New Zealand. It's Friday and they're taking part in Fridays for Future, the movement inspired by Greta Thunberg. Hundreds of thousands are expected to walk out of school, university and work. Now, the last 5 years have been the hottest ever recorded, and the climate is continuing to change in ways that will make the planet uninhabitable for future generations. These protesters are asking that the politicians that run their countries put less carbon into the atmosphere as carbon acts to stop heat escaping from the planet's upper atmosphere.
My generation really shouldn't have to be out here missing school. Yeah. We should be in school, and I feel as though really it's just really important to me and everyone here that we make a stand up against the other generations that have really screwed over our planet.
The message from the UN speech from Greta, I'm sure inspired many old people as well as the young, and that's what there's been criticism of, but I think it needs people like her, and with the follow-up, at least it's coming from the bottom up perhaps, because that's the only way it's going to go, I think.
Now, one country which is making a great effort to reduce its carbon output is Costa Rica. The government says that 99% of the energy for its power grid will come from renewable sources. Hydropower makes up the bulk of that, that's 67%. That's energy generated from the waves and tides. 70% is wind, and the rest is geothermal, biomass and solar panels. See, it can be done if governments choose to invest in the right industries. Donald Trump has decided to reduce the number of refugees allowed into the US next year. It's now at 18,000, the lowest it's ever been since the country began its refugee program in 1980. It's part of Donald Trump's agenda to make America great again by refusing to allow people displaced by war and persecution into the country. Australian Facebook users will find the number of likes that other people's posts get hidden from them from today. It's an attempt by Facebook to take the competitive popularity contest element out of social media. It's been trialled on Instagram since July in Canada. A British polar research ship has been renamed the Sir David Attenborough. The name for the ship was put to the vote in the UK in 2016, and the internet picked Boaty McBoatface because the UK is full of witty trolls. 2 members of the royal family were there when they changed the name of the ship to something more adult. Now, this week we have been asking why Greta Thunberg is getting so much hate online.
Hi, I'm a middle-aged man with an embarrassing problem. I get irrationally angry at a Swedish girl who wants to save the planet.
Now, Australia's current affairs show 7:30 has a satirical solution to your irrational hatred towards a teenager who is just trying to save the planet. It's called the Greta Thunberg Helpline for adults angry at a child. This video has been viewed more than 9 million times and even got a retweet from Greta herself.
We'll listen, no matter how ridiculous you sound.
She's making the end of the world sound like it's the end of the world.
I think if I'm honest, I'm just jealous that she got a free cruise to America.
And so she actually sailed there herself.
We shouldn't be listening to a child. We should be listening to an expert.
Oh, right. Well, do you want me to put you through to an expert? Hello?
The Greta Thunberg Helpline, because when it comes to climate change, we all know she's the real problem.
And that is all from the Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us at 24/7 on YouTube. You can subscribe to our channel, and why not follow me on Twitter? Follow, subscribe and add, and I will see you again very soon.